Hi everyone, welcome to At Home with Joan and Monty.
We've got some wonderful guests today. We have an artist from Trinidad, Tobago, and we have Deborah, who's a very successful fashion designer in the UK.
Our first guest will be Deborah, and welcome Deborah to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Tell us, how you became so successful?
I'm a fashion event organizer, but I have been a dressmaker in the past, and so I do understand the progress or the progression of making clothes. But now I run an events company called Fashion's Finest, and we mainly work with emerging designers, up-and-coming designers, graduates from the Black and ethnic minority, working class, low income, those who really struggle to get any kind of visibility within the fashion industry. So we, from the outset, that has been the ethos of our business.
How do you create opportunities and visibility for people with talent?
Well, one of the things that we did 11 years ago when we set up Fashion's Finest was we opened our doors in like an atmosphere that brought together music and spoken word and fashion, and we merged everything together, and that's really how we started this. So we would have an event where up-and-coming designers could have that platform, but not just up-and-coming designers, but up-and-coming musicians, up-and-coming artists, just to have that platform to speak and to showcase their work. And then over the last probably 10 years now, we've been hosting shows during the London Fashion Week period. So we're classed as an off-schedule show. So every February and every September, we host 1 or 2 days where we give up to 20, 30 designers that opportunity to bring their season collection there, whether it be a very small collection or a medium or large, and present that to a fashion industry audience. And so that gives them that platform to showcase. It also gives them a wider reach, really, because sometimes they end up in magazines, online. So there's lots of different opportunities that arise just from that one opportunity there.
So social media has become a huge platform for people to showcase their talent, where in the past it's difficult to for their talent to get noticed. So tell me, how has social media changed the dynamics of the music, the fashion, the media industry?
I mean, for me, it's good, but it can also be negative too. But I think if you use it in the right way, it gives an equal platform to people, because everybody can set up their own Instagram or Facebook, and they have the opportunity to promote their work. They have the opportunity to sell their work, and people can actually see the creative process. Whereas before, people may be in their studios making their designs or creating their artwork. Now you have the opportunity to do these things live. We've been doing like our Fashion's Finest Let's Talk Fashion Business live every Tuesday. So people are now coming into your homes and seeing, how you do your work and how you create from the beginning, and then seeing the end, the finished garment or the finished painting or the finished, tune, music, whatever it is. They can follow the journey. So it's kind of amazing. It's opened the world up to, even seeing people from abroad. It's kind of given us the opportunity, not just within the UK, but we can now reach out to people in different countries and follow their journey. So it's quite amazing, really.
Deborah, as a woman of color, what are some of the challenges you face in the fashion industry?
Well, I faced a lot of challenges, to be honest. There's still a lot of discrimination within the fashion industry, and I would call it institutional racism, whereby we are not treated equally. We are not given the same opportunities. For example, I've been doing Fashion's Finest now for 11, going on 12 years. And really, I should be further on than I am. But there are so many obstacles that are continuously in my way, whether it be the lack of access to funding, the lack of access to applying for grants, just totally being ignored by mainstream. so many different things that kind of have been a big issue over the years, to be honest, and still are an issue. And, you know, I just hope that one day, you know, that these things will change.
Yes. And at this time, without cutting you short, I'd like to introduce our second guest, Mr. Miles Regis, artist and painter coming out of California, LA. Hello. Thank you, Miles, for joining us, waking
Thanks
you
for
up
having me. Thanks for
early
having me.
hours in LA. You're 8 hours behind us. I'm
That's
sorry to
right.
disturb you.
That's
But
right.
thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask you, when did you become interested in painting and art in general?
You know, I've been painting my entire life. So as a child, I would draw and write poetry, and you know, I was on stage singing, maybe age 5. So the very interesting thing is everything that I did creatively as a child, I'm still doing today at 52. And that in itself is such a blessing. I feel like I discovered my purpose really early in life, and the passion that I have for what I do has been able to stay. You know,
But
after
I
all
like
these
to,
years, it's what keeps me going. You know.
despite being an artist and painter at an early age, did you have any other career lined up just in case you didn't make it as an artist or painter?
Yeah, I went to college and I did the corporate thing. I did the 9 to 5. I worked in entertainment, so I was always around what I loved. I started off in the music industry, and um, from there I went over to the movie side of things. Worked for Orion Pictures for a bit, so from Sony Music to Orion Pictures, and sort of worked my way up the corporate ladder. About 10 years ago, I finally retired from that life, um, running a hugely successful staffing company. So I was a headhunter in the creative space, and you know, fulfilling, remarkably successful at it. It really allowed me to develop that business side of the head that is needed to be a successful visual artist. So I always say that I am a business artist. I sort of treat my craft and my world with the respect that is due for, you know, to make any career successful. So, you know, I have a structure that's, if I should say so myself, quite impressive. You know, management company, attorneys, I run it like a business, and thank God I had that corporate experience behind me to sort of understand what it takes to be doing a business on your own. At the end of the day,
So,
you know, I'm an artist, but it is a business.
as an artist, what was the highlight of your career as an artist?
That's a brilliant question. Several highlights. Um, I think some of the collectors I have, and some of them I can't mention, but I'm in the collection of some pretty impressive collectors. Some are celebrities, and some are just some of the top collectors in the world. And it's been an honor just to be a part of their collection. I once had a billboard in New York Times Square for a charity event for Encourage Kids. And being in New York on Times Square and looking up and seeing my face on a huge electronic billboard with my art in my hand sort of was one of the highlights of my career for me so far.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, hi Miles. Where do you get your source of inspiration from when you do your paintings and your work of art?
I always say that I am one of those artists who's sort of just documenting history. So art for me is sort of like my visual diary of what's going on. So it can come from the news. You know, when we see what's happening in the world today with the pandemic and stateside with all the rioting and the civil unrest, really. It's allowed me to have a lot to say. So I've been painting quite frequently. I'm one of those people, I like to paint every day. And every day there's so much for me to draw from, to comment on. It's been a very traumatic time, particularly in the Black community. And the trauma that I'm dealing with, I am able to sort of, one, address it and sort of heal myself from the pain through the creativity and through the act of just taking paint to a canvas and expressing on it. So it really depends on the day. I am a husband, a father to two teenage children. Um, our lives, our world is sort of what I am documenting and speaking about. So the inspiration is always there.
Being a father, a breadwinner into the home, how does that affect you? What's going on today? And how do you reflect that into the painting?
The loss of lives, the way that, you know, the country has dealt with the pandemic, the only way for me to sort of work through the pain has been to try to want to make a difference or try to help the situation. And the healing and comfort that I find when I paint, I hope in turn sort of provides some measure of comfort to the audience or people who view my work. And the feedback that I'm getting from people is, man, you know, keep doing what you're doing. Every time I see your work, it touches me so deeply. You know, I needed this today in my life. You know, so hearing stuff like that is comforting for me as well. You know, as I find comfort in creating work and it touches and resonates with people, I feel like I'm indeed sort of making a difference, as small as it may be.
You know, like they say, a picture has 1,000 words.
Yeah.
So are there certain paintings or artwork that you do to send out particular messages, you know, to society? And also the other question is, can painting be therapeutic for your own mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting in the art world. Usually, an artist creates a body of work, and then it's left up to curators who are doing shows for museums or gallery situations. They usually come and they check out your babies, as I call them, and they decide, you know, what works for within the context of what their programming is. And over the past month in particular, um, the curator has sort of left the equation. And I have sort of turned to social media rather than the gallery situation. So as a result, I've been the one sort of solely responsible for curating and deciding what messages go out there. Just because it's so timely and I felt like, you know, the messages that I am creating right now need to be seen immediately. And it's not always, that's not always the case. A lot of my past shows have been, you know, it's not usually work that I do today and then it's on Instagram tomorrow. You know, that's not the typical um, flow of things as an artist. You know, the past 2 months or so, all the gallery spaces were closed. So as an artist, you're like, okay, what? Well, I need to get this work shown. How do I get it out there? Putting it up on Instagram and on Facebook and having it sort of released to the world has been solely my responsibility. I was really fortunate to have one of my pieces, America, featured in as a cover of the LA Weekly, and the visibility there was enormous, incredible. And the message in that piece is sort of exactly like people were saying, right on time, Miles, right on time. And it provided a sense of healing, of comfort, particularly during a time like this when there's so much pain. To answer your question, I'm extremely proud to be able to, one, heal myself by creating the work, and two, have the messages resonate with a wider audience through the social media platform.
Absolutely brilliant. I'd like to
Thank you.
ask you, Deborah, how can someone get involved with Fashion's Finest?
There's lots of ways, really. I guess the main thing, that, like I said, that we do is we do the fashion shows. So we do collective fashion shows, which obviously makes it more affordable for, you know, new designers. So that gives them the platform to showcase their season collection in a group. So they're supported by other designers. So that's one way. We also give designers the opportunity to have their own show. So some designers are a bit further on and they have a bit more behind them, they have a bit more media attention. So they're able, and maybe a bit more finance too, and they're able to have their own show where, you know, they can showcase their work to their specific audience, and maybe boutiques and maybe, you know, buyers that they know would be interested in buying their garments. So those are one ways. We also have pop-ups during Fashion Week. So we have places around the room where, you know, jewellery brands, artists, footwear, it doesn't matter, you know, what you do, nail art, you can have a pop-up and showcase your work there as well. And we also have the online, Fashion's Finest online, which we do features and blogs and, you know, all kinds of things for designers. We profile the designers there, so you can go there and you can read about probably all of the designers that we've worked with in the past. You can read about their bios, you can read about their collections, you can actually view their collections in the gallery. And then we are also open to other ideas. Sometimes we may work to a certain, you know, we have a certain way of working, but there may be a designer that thinks, okay, well, I don't want to work that way. I want to do something kind of different. So we're very flexible. We're very open to anybody really that wants to use our platform. We're happy to give that exposure, push their brand forward using our social media platforms as well. Yeah.
How can a designer lengthen their career?
I think one of the key things is when you're at university, fashion always seems so glamorous and so exciting, and it's not until a lot of these young people and even adults, they actually leave and they're in the real world that they actually realise this is not a joke. This is hard work. You have to not just understand the making of your garment. The most important and key thing for your business is understanding the business side of your business, because if you don't understand the business, how then can you grow your business? Don't think just because you've left university that education stops there. It's about finding ways to continue to educate yourself and understand how business works, understand who your market is, you know, just take each day as it comes very slowly, learn, talk to people who have been there before you, ask questions, but most importantly, educate yourself. So a lot of the times, the reason why the business may fail is because they don't have the funding. And unfortunately, in the UK, the funds for the creative industry, when it comes to fashion, are just not there. So unless you have family, friends, parents who can sponsor you, support you financially, it becomes a problem. And I think until the UK government or, you know, anybody with, you know, that has the power to make that change does something about the, you know, the fact that these young people and these new starters have no way of accessing funds, this will continue to be a problem. So that's the key thing. So it's funding and it's education, and it's just not rushing and getting carried away with the glamour of fashion, because
And the hype.
the hype, everything, because that will fizzle out and you need to focus on your business.
Obviously, you're the CEO of Finest Fashion. How can an upcoming fashion designer get involved?
They can get involved in our shows. They can get involved in our online talks. Every Tuesday, like I say, we have the Let's Talk. At the moment, we're talking about future of fashion. You know, how have people managed through this time? So we're looking at how this has affected them and their business, and how do they see the future of fashion for them? Will they be able to continue? Have they had to make any changes? So I think it's good to tune in and to listen, because people that are speaking are actually giving advice, that things that maybe you haven't thought about, that maybe you could implement into your own business. We have an online platform actually that we call a shop, but it's not a real shop. So what it is, we decided we'd do it slightly different. So we actually promote the shops of emerging designers. So they can feature on the website with a banner. That banner will click through to their own store and people can go on and look and buy. And we also feature and promote those designers on our social media. Our fashion shows they can get involved in. We're happy to promote press releases, feature them. Anything that they need, basically, we are there to listen. We're very family-like in our approach, because we don't want people to think that we're here just to make money. It's not about that. It's about how can we create a network, caring network, where we look after the people that use our service and help them to develop, not just themselves in, you know, as people, but actually develop their business too.
So Miles, I had a question to ask you. We've had a lot of artists in the past, you know, Maverick's probably the right term, but you stayed relevant for so many years. How are you able to do that? Because a lot of people just come and go, but you know, you're still relevant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I believe it's because of the type of work that I do. You know, the intent is to comment on what's happening with us. You know, what's current. So if, you know, as an artist, you speak to what is relevant, the hope is that, you know, the body of work that you're creating will always be relevant. The intent always is to be as truthful and as genuine and as tapped into what's important as I'm creating. It's important for me that I remain authentic. And I feel when an artist is creating a body of work that's maybe contrived or popular or trending or of the day, then you sort of faced with the possibility of that body of work not remaining relevant as time goes by. But, you know, the interesting thing, particularly now, is that a lot of the work that I've been posting online, man, it's been stuff that I created 10, 20 years ago. It speaks to the fact that sometimes the message sort of is timeless. So I feel like, again, as long as I'm as authentic and truthful in the body of work that I'm sort of working on, the hope is that it stands the test of time and that the statements remain relevant.
Miles, what are some steps new and upcoming artists could take in order to get their work seen?
It's a very, very good question, and a question that all of us artists right now are sort of faced with, figuring out what this new model is going to be. The art gallery is always going to be there, but now you can post an image on social media and it is seen across the globe. And there's a lot of power in that. So I would encourage any up-and-coming artist to really work on getting their work in front of as many faces as possible. You can be an LA-based artist creating a body of work, and you can shop it, go from gallery to gallery trying to get a deal. You can post that body of work on your Instagram account and a gallerist in Australia would reach out to you and go, hey, we want to do a show with you. So I think it's important to market yourself and get seen by as many people as possible so that you can sort of flourish and have options as an artist. I think that's the most important thing. Creating your own options so that there are tons of opportunities for you to show and expose that body of work to as many as possible. Let's do a bit of a tour. I'm going to go back into the house where you can see some work, but as we walk towards the door, you can see some of my outdoor art.
Oh, wow.
Walking. Let me show you some of the work that's up on the walls. I have to bring some light so that you can actually see all the windows and curtains are still drawn. But here are some pieces.
Wow.
Oh, wow. I love that. What's that piece about?
This is the first piece I did for 2020. And I did it after losing my father-in-law. My wife lost her dad in December, and quite a traumatic time for the family. And
Sorry to hear.
thank you. With the difficulty and the mourning, I sort of wanted to do a piece that sort of, again, I sort of documenting what myself and my family is sort of going through. So I felt like this was a very solemn sort of it. My wife saw it and she said, it looks like a funeral. And I was like, ooh, interesting. But it's called The End is Where You Begin. And as an artist, I always like to provide a sense of hope or a sense of again, I'm going to use that word, healing. So this was the piece that I did to sort of help me deal with that difficult time. So the end is where you begin, sort of hopefully saying, it's not the ending, but the beginning of something new. This is one of the first pieces that I did during quarantine.
Okay. Let's see it. Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Oh, that's beautiful. A
And
Black family.
Yeah.
yes,
Powerful.
Beautiful.
it's sort of, a family sitting on a couch watching the news, which is what I was doing with my wife and kids. My kids are teenagers, 17 and 14. So this is probably them at a different age, but I felt like it sort of captured the mood of what was happening with us, just sort of freaked out going, what the hell is going on in the world? And then you said color.
What medium do you use to paint? What
I
medium?
I use mixed media, so it's acrylic, it's spray paint, it's oil paint, whatever I feel gives me the best texture is kind of what I go with. So some of the hair in this piece, it would be oil. So the black is oil paint. And then the majority of the rest of it is acrylic. And then if you go really close, you'd see there like pencil marks and strokes all over. So I kind of add crayon or pencil or whatever I get my hands on at times just to add texture. Here's Quarantine Bay. This is another piece that I did during quarantine.
I saw that one before, and that's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. And then I'll give you a burst of color. This is a piece from 2011 that's very abstract.
Yeah, lovely.
Oh, this is beautiful. I like this. You see, I've seen a lot of your abstract pieces where you've integrated the face of a man, a woman, until it looked like if I describe some of your work as like Black Picasso in a positive way. How you pulled different images into the splashes
Thank you. I
of your
appreciate it.
abstract. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Miles. Deborah, I'd like to ask you, what were the highlights of your career within the fashion industry?
I think for me, just the fact that we're going into 11 to 12 years actually as a business. So the longevity, even though the struggle has been there, we've kept going, and we've seen many organisations that are similar just gone to the ground, but we've managed to still be there and remain relevant. And I think that's because we've looked at, society, and we're trying to adapt and work with the changes within society and remain relevant. I think it was 2019 I won an award, and it was the Making a Difference Award. And I was quite honoured, to have received that award, because, I feel like I have made a difference to bring and to highlight the lack of diversity within the fashion industry. Not just that, the lack of black models, the lack of black designers, the healthy models. Our platform makes sure that every single model that walks on our catwalk is healthy and that they're mentally okay. And I think, I've set a standard, and I think I've kept to that standard. And I use the word family again, because even the models that I work with, the hair team, the makeup team, they always come back and say, Fashion Finest is like a family, and we love working with them. And I think if your customer and the people that work with you are happy, that does it for me.
What are your future plans for Fashion Finest?
My aim is still to grow the business. My aim is to continue to reach out to the people that need to know that we are here and that we're not going anywhere, and just to create a bigger and a better platform where people feel they can just come and just, showcase their work, use our services. We're all part of the human race, and that's been our ethos from the beginning, and that's how we have remained. And I think I just want to continue that journey, but be able to open it up further afield and be able to invite more people into our space that we've created.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you.
Miles, I'd just like to ask you, what's your future plan? Just to touch a little bit on, Black Lives Matter. How do you think the world has reacted?
Future plans, just to continue to be as authentic as possible and as truthful as possible, and to take this message of love and unity far and wide. The Black Lives Matter message and movement, I believe, is one of love and of inclusion, and speaks mainly of equality. I feel fortunate to be a part of that movement. I believe that the messages that we as artists are creating or have created, and fortunately is now at the forefront of discussions, is going to absolutely have a snowball effect. And we're there. There is going to be change. There are going to be changes in laws, and it's all going to be a huge positive. This word may scare people, but revolution. We're looking at a peaceful, positive revolution. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Miles. And in closing, is there any other ventures that you are involved in? And how can people sort of like go on and purchase some of your work?
My website, milesregis.com. I feature my fine art paintings. I've got a couple new print releases that have been really well received. Happy to be able to make art more affordable by offering these prints. And my clothing line. Right now, the masks that I'm making have been really popular. I've been able to put some of the more popular images that I've posted on Instagram recently onto the mask that I'm making. and again, really well received. And I feel like I'm also doing community service because we all need to be wearing masks. So yeah, it's a good time in that I feel like I'm able to make a difference.
Thank you so much. And we, each and every one of you today are making a great difference. I'd like to thank Deborah. I'd like to thank Miles for coming onto our show. Deborah taking her time off from her busy schedule, Fashion Finest in London, and Miles for waking him up very early LA time, which is 8 hours behind London time. Thank you so much
The
for
pleasure is
everyone
mine.
joining us today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you very much.